Hi, Phyllis here from southernfrugal.com. This morning we're going to make a New Orleans style bread pudding. Now this is pretty much my recipe, but everybody has their own recipe for bread pudding. This is just mine. And we're going to start out with French bread. Now this French bread I just bought at Walmart. It was like a day old, and that's really what you're looking for. I put it in the oven at about 350 degrees for like 10 minutes. I cut the oven off without opening the door and just left it for an hour so it gets hard, okay? And this crusty part on the bread is what's going to make the bread pudding really, really good. All right, we're ready to get started. And the first thing I'm going to do is cut up the French bread. And I'm looking for 6 cups of cubed French bread. So I cut up several pieces to start with, and then just try to cut them down like that. You want to get them in little cubes as best you can. Alright, and again, we're looking for 6 cups of French bread cubes, really. Alright, I'm going to finish cutting this bread up, and as soon as I get my 6 cups, we'll be back and I'll show you how this all comes together. We have completed cutting up the French bread into little cubes, and you want 6 cups. Now this is going to be about probably 2/3 to 3/4 of one of those Walmart French bread loaves. And you just have some left over. You could make garlic toast. Anyway, you want to set that aside now. Okay, now we're ready for our ingredients that are going to moisten everything up and add the taste. So the first thing we're going to do is add 4 eggs to our bowl. And we're just going to whisk those up a little bit. Just get them broken up. Now, bread pudding in New Orleans, I don't know, it's just every restaurant has their own recipe, and I'm sure all the homemakers in New Orleans have their own recipe. But one of the best bread puddings I ever had in New Orleans, it was actually outside New Orleans at this little restaurant that very much looked like the restaurant that the locals go to. And the lady who owned the restaurant's the one who made the bread pudding, and her granddaughter was our waitress. And I was asking her how they made the bread pudding. She said her grandmother cooked it all night in a real low oven. So I thought, well, that makes sense. So anyway, it was the best we ever had in New Orleans. Alright, to the eggs we're going to add 2 cups of sugar. And I know that seems like a lot, but we're making a big batch here. Just kind of get that mixed up a little bit. And it's just plain white sugar, 2 cups. To this, we are going to add 2 teaspoons of just pure vanilla extract. Alright, and we're also going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of mace. Now mace is what goes in donuts. If you ever buy donuts anywhere, this is always going to be in them. It gives donuts a distinct taste. So we're just going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of that. And we're going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Now neither one of these spices you will even know are in there, but they're going to definitely enhance the taste. At this point, if you want to, you could add just a little bit of salt. You wouldn't want to add much. And while we're at it, we're just going to go ahead and add in the butter. Now this is 1 stick of butter, or 1/2 cup butter melted, and it's also cool. So I'm going to go ahead and dump that in. Just mix all these ingredients. And you really probably don't want to use the electric mixer here, because you're going to be adding a bunch of milk and it'd be splashing everywhere. So I really don't ever use the mixer here. See some of that little nutmeg needs to be mashed up. Okay. All right. Now to this mixture, I'm going to go ahead and add 1/4 cup of just Bacardi rum. And this is the light rum that I used on the fruit cake at Christmas time. We're going to also use it in a sauce to go on the bread pudding, but I want 1/4 of a cup actually in the bread pudding. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix that in. The rum gives it a really distinct taste. You can't really tell it's rum, you really can't tell what it is, but it just definitely gives it a distinct taste. Any little, keep seeing that little nutmeg not dissolved in there, a little lump. I guess it wasn't going to hurt anything. Alright, now we're ready to add our milk mixture. Now you can use 1 quart of 1/2 and 1/2, or you can just use 2 cups of regular milk and a carton of whipping cream. It'd be basically the same thing. But a quart of 1/2 and 1/2 would work better. And of course that would be 4 cups. So I'm going to go ahead and add 16 ounces of whipping cream. And then I'm going to add 2 cups of just regular whole milk. Just gently mix that in. It's going to be a very rich bread pudding. Okay, now at this point I'm going to go ahead and add a cup of golden raisins. You can also use the dark raisins. I just prefer the golden raisins. Just mix those all in. You can also put pecans in this. I just prefer it without the pecans, and most of the time when you get bread pudding in a restaurant, it really doesn't have nuts in it. We're now ready to add our 6 cups of bread. French bread cubes is really what they are. Now, to get this so that all the bread will soak up the liquid, you'll need to put a plate over it or something that will go down and weigh it down, and we're going to leave it sitting for about 20 minutes. Let me see if this bowl will work for me. Yeah, that bowl's going to work. A round plate or even a saucer that you can put in there, you want all the breadcrumbs to soak up this liquid. All right, we're going to leave this soaking for, let's just say 20 minutes, and we'll be back, and I'll show you how we cook it. Our bread pudding mixture has been soaking for about 20 minutes, and now we're ready to bake it. Now we're going to bake this in the oven at 300 degrees for about 1.5 hours. Now you want to bake it slow, because really it's going to taste a lot better if you bake it slow. Alright, so we're ready to dump it into our baking dish. Now I'm using a 9 by I think it's 9 by 13 Pyrex dish, and it's well buttered. So all we got to do now is just dump it in this dish. All right, now you want to redistribute your raisins a little bit because they will all kind of sink to the bottom. Kind of get them up on the bread as much as you can. All right, so this bread is pretty well soaked up a lot of the liquid. All right, so we're ready to put this in the oven now. And again, you want to bake it probably an hour and a half at about 300 degrees. All right, when this gets ready, we'll be back and we'll make the sauce to go on it. Okay, the bread pudding is done. It cooked for an hour and a half at 300 degrees. Now, I did put aluminum foil over mine because I don't like mine brown on top. Plus, that keeps the bread from pushing up too much. There it is. All right. Now, we are ready to make the sauce. This is going to be a butter rum sauce. So, I'm melting 2 tablespoons of butter, and that would be really heaping tablespoons of butter. 1/2 cup of just regular sugar. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of cornstarch to that. And that's just regular cornstarch. All right. Now I'm going to mix in that cornstarch to really helps so that the lumps don't really form in it, you know, once you start cooking it. So just kind of mash those lumps out with using the sugar crystals. All right, now to this butter I'm going to add 1 cup of whole milk. And I'm going to go ahead and put my sugar in now. Now you want to cook this until it gets just slightly bubbly, and the cornstarch will thicken up this milk mixture. So you just want to keep stirring it. Now, something interesting I think about the rum. The rum mostly comes from the Caribbean island of Barbados. And Barbados was settled really by the British, and they found that they could grow the sugar cane there, and so the whole island was just nothing but divided up, I think, between about maybe 12 people. There were very large plantations, and of course they had to have people to work the plantations, and I think in the beginning they had indentured slaves or workers, whatever you called them, from England, and then they started importing slaves from West Africa to work the fields and, you know, help with the harvesting of the sugar cane. And of course the English at this point decided they really liked sugar, so the sugar was really called white gold at that point, and it became very profitable for them. So I thought all that was very interesting, and I think it was in probably the 1700s when they first figured out how to make rum. And so, of course, the Caribbean islands are still known for their rum, and of course that's how rum ended up in New Orleans by way of the Caribbean islands. So I don't know why most restaurants in New Orleans use a whiskey sauce on their bread pudding, but a few still use the rum sauce. Now, I like the rum sauce a lot better. All right, so we're going to turn that burner up just a little bit. Get this to thicken up some. Yeah, I thought that was very interesting about the sugarcane industry in the Caribbean. And I think they went from there to southern Louisiana because they had a similar temperature and, the humidity factor as they do in the Caribbean, in the southern part of Louisiana. And of course, they grow a tremendous amount of sugarcane there, and they've got the Mississippi Delta, where all that stuff washes down the Mississippi and makes that ground very, very rich, because I think for sugarcane to grow, it has to have a very rich soil. All right, it's going to take just a few minutes for this to come up to just to a boil. Now, this sauce is going to need 1/4 a cup of rum, and this is just regular white rum, the same one I used on the fruit cake at Christmas time. So 1/4 of a cup of rum, and to this I'm going to add my little secret ingredient to greatly enhance the taste, just a little bit of molasses. And what I do is just dip the spoon in there. It's probably about a teaspoon. And just put it down in the rum and just really kind of dissolve it as much as you can. Now this mixture here needs to be stirred right much, because you don't want it to stick to the bottom, and it will if you don't stir it. So it's already getting thick. I'm going to turn my burner back down now to just medium low, because I don't want it doing a lot of boiling because of that milk. Alright, so it's thickened up now, and now we're going to add the rum and grandma molasses mixture to that. Alright, and beat it in really fast. Now all the alcohol, of course, evaporates out of this sauce. You don't really have to worry about the alcohol. The main thing is you're getting that rum flavoring taste in there, which is what I like. Alright, so there's my sauce. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and have myself some bread pudding. So I'm just going to dip some out on a saucer. And then I'm just going to put a little sauce on there if I can figure out a spoon. I'll just use a gravy spoon. Okay, here it is. Just spoon the sauce right over it. This is hot, but I have to taste of it. So, so good. Oh. Gotta have another bite. Again, if you wanted to use the whiskey sauce on this, you would just substitute the bourbon for the rum. Now, I think it's much, much better with the rum. There you have it. Bread pudding with rum sauce. All right, see you next time.